All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. I've got a couple of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, I wanted to start out this video with kind of a motivational story here. And a lot of you guys have tagged me in this guy's Instagram page, D_low. So this guy, to me, has a pretty motivational page. Pretty much everything he posts is him going after it in the gym, him going after it boxing training, bench pressing, curling, just really super motivational posts about how, everything is a mental game, mind over matter, and how your mind can overcome whatever physical limitations you might have. And him being shorter in stature, obviously, is the main thing that drew a lot of people's attention to his videos. But I think, as much attention as we give to pro bodybuilders or pro strength athletes, I think it's important to also shine some light and give some exposure to guys like this that I think are also doing something extremely positive and beneficial. Because I think this guy, he can really motivate and inspire a lot of people with the positive outlook and his positive attitude that he seems to have. And of course, the intensity that he seems to get after it with his training. So I wanted to include this story in this video just to kind of show him some love. Again, his Instagram page is at D_low 561. So if you guys want to go over there, check him out, show him some love. I just thought it'd be a cool addition to this video. He's got some pretty capped delts too, man. He's got a pretty insane little physique there. So shout out to my boy D-Low. Now, next up in the news, I want to talk about Cedric McMillan here. So Cedric McMillan posted a training video recently where obviously he looks insane. Cedric always looks insane whenever he posts anything, and it seems to be pretty rare that Cedric posts a physique update or a training video. But now that he's with Redcon, it seems like he posts a little bit more often. Now, it's important to note that Cedric is qualified for the 2020 Mr. Olympia already, so he does not need to compete anymore between now and the Olympia. But he's someone that I feel like a lot of people have not really talked about in their Olympia predictions or talking about some of the names that are in this year's Mr. Olympia. And of course, I'm assuming he's doing it because he's qualified. Why would you not do it? And, he's with Redcon now, so I'm assuming that Aaron wants him to compete. I'm sure there will be some kind of bonus if he places well, so I'm sure he's got plenty of incentive to compete there. But Cedric is a guy that no one has really been talking about going into the 2020 Mr. Olympia, despite the fact that he's qualified, despite the fact that he's a past Arnold Classic champion, and despite the fact that he was top 10 at last year's Mr. Olympia. He was actually 7th, so he was right outside of the top 6, kind of looking in. He got edged out by Steve Kuklo at that Olympia. But Cedric is a guy that I feel like people, oftentimes count out because he's very hit or miss with his conditioning, and it's very hard to predict how Cedric is going to look from show to show, because it really does tend to vary quite a bit how he looks. Sometimes he nails it, sometimes he doesn't. And unfortunately, more often than not, when it comes to the Olympia, he doesn't seem to nail it as often as he nails it when it comes to the Arnold Classic. So I just wanted to include Cedric in this video because I do feel like no one has really been talking about him going into this year's Mr. Olympia. Again, despite the fact he is qualified, he's probably doing it. And in this lineup, he could be a guy that does very well. I mean, Cedric, like I said, he's typically a wild card depending on conditioning. But if you think about it, and this logic could have applied to last year and it didn't really work out for him, but in a lineup with a lot of shorter bodybuilders, and by shorter, that's a relative term compared to Cedric, Cedric's got a very different physique. He's taller. He's got a different kind of stage presence, a more commanding stage presence. He's got a bigger, taller, more flowing physique, more aesthetic physique than a lot of these guys. So in a lineup like this where a lot of the top guys are shorter bodybuilders, you're going to have Flex Lewis, possibly William Bonac, possibly Hadi Chupin, possibly Brandon Curry. Your top 3 from last year, all those guys I believe are 5'7" or under. And then, of course, you got Phil Heath. He's 5'9". Cedric is 6'1", so I believe he'd be the tallest bodybuilder in the Mr. Olympia this year if he does compete. So that counts for something. I mean, he's got a different physique than everybody else. He would certainly stand out. So again, it's really just a matter of whether or not he comes in condition. I know that it seems like a lot of fans might have given up on whether or not he will come in condition. But I think every year, Cedric is kind of like Rolly Winkler. He's a wild card. If Rolly nails it, Rolly's extremely dangerous. When Rolly's off or Rolly is flat, he's not nearly as dangerous. And it's the exact same thing with Cedric. He could be a very big potential threat in an Olympia lineup like this, especially like this one, where I think Big Ramy is the only other guy that is over 5'10". I think Big Ramy's 5'10", 5'11". Dexter Jackson's like 5'6". I mean, most of these guys are significantly under 6 foot. And being shorter does kind of be present itself as an advantage in bodybuilding. So, maybe that might be working against Cedric, but again, I think there's a possibility there that it's something that he could use in his favor if he brings the conditioning, and it would really make him stand out on stage. It gives him, I think, that more aesthetic look to his physique, the fact that he is taller, and I think that's part of the appeal of his physique is that he is taller. So I guess we'll see what happens, but just like every year, I would love to see Cedric come into the Olympia and nail it and be a top 6 guy and be right there, battling out with the best of the best on the Olympia stage. Now, next up in the news, Chris Bumstead, his recent Instagram post, his latest Instagram post, I should say, pressing 150-pound dumbbells. And I thought this was interesting mostly because so far he's chosen not to respond or acknowledge the comments made by Breone Ainsley about his weak points. Admittedly, Breone did take some pretty heavy shots at Bumstead, and I think the fact that he's not responding and instead he's just posting pretty heavy workout videos. I mean, before he posted this chest press video, he posted a couple heavy deadlift videos, just kind of showing that he's putting in the work to retain the title come December. And I think that's respectable for him not to even acknowledge it, although, granted, I'm sure a lot of us would love to see the drama in the back and forth between Chris and Breone, but I do think it's kind of commendable that he's just posting videos and pictures of him putting in the work and not getting involved at all or acknowledging the drama. But I definitely do think it's going to be an interesting battle between Bumstead and Breone on the Olympia stage come December. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to, especially given Breone's recent comments. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you guys have winning the 2020 Mr. Olympia Classic Physique, Breone, Bumstead, or someone else? Now, Chris Bumstead is not the only one putting in work leading up to the Olympia. Also, you've got William Bonac pressing 70 kgs on the same exercise as Chris Bumstead, which is roughly 154 pounds of dumbbell, so fairly close actually to what your Classic Physique champ is pressing. William Bonac, the runner-up from the 2019 Mr. Olympia just last year. Hopefully, William Bonac, in addition to Heidi Chupin, in addition to Rolly Winkler, in addition to Big Ramy, are guys that are hopefully going to make it to the Olympia. Again, they are international competitors. They are already qualified, except for Big Ramy, of course. And hopefully travel restrictions open up to the point where they are able to get here and compete at the Olympia. But it appears he shows no sign of slowing down. And he says he hasn't touched anything that heavy since his prep for the Arnold. So now he's going pretty hard during his prep for the Olympia. Now, next up in the news, Quint Beastwood, who is getting ready for the New York Pro here in just a couple of weeks now. I believe it's Labor Day weekend. He just posted his most recent series of photos on Instagram getting ready for that show. He looks like he's really starting to tighten things up and really start to dial in the conditioning for the New York Pro. And like I've said before when I talked about Quint, I think that he's somebody that you guys need to have on your radar. He's somebody that you guys need to watch out for. When this New York Pro comes up, I'm sure a lot of you guys are going to be watching the live stream just like me. And this is a name that I think a lot of you guys should be paying attention to when those call-outs start to happen. He is a taller guy. He is significantly taller. I believe he's like 6'4". So I don't know how he's going to fare in bodybuilding. Like we talked about with Cedric, height sometimes or oftentimes really tends to be a disadvantage. So I guess we'll see how that plays out on the New York Pro stage. That could work to his disadvantage. But right now, he's looking very aesthetic. He's got quite a bit of size. And I think he's going to have a pretty dominant stage presence with that height. But this is certainly a competitor I'm excited to see compete. Now, finally in the news today, Phil Heath recently posted a picture on his Instagram, drenched in sweat, with the caption, all about that work, putting in work for his 2020 Mr. Olympia comeback. And I've got to say, I am pretty excited to see Phil come back. I've seen a lot of speculation. I've watched a lot of videos. Honestly, I really stopped watching other bodybuilding channels once mine really started to take off. But I've been watching a lot of speculation videos about Brandon versus Phil and comparison videos about Brandon versus Phil. And I've got to say, I think there's a lot of people that have made some really good points in favor of Brandon and reasons why Brandon could actually really challenge Phil and why it would be such a good matchup. And I just think it's going to be a great battle to see Brandon and Phil go head-to-head on the Olympia stage. I mean, it's almost hard to remember a time that Phil Heath was going into a Mr. Olympia not the champion. I think the last time would have been 2010, almost a decade ago. So the fact that we're talking about Phil Heath as technically not the favorite this year because he's not the defending champ, I think is an interesting dynamic to this year's lineup. And it's something that we haven't had in a very long time. I mean, I've been doing this Olympia commentary thing for 5 years, maybe pretty seriously for 5 years on my channel. I've had my channel since 2012, so hell, the whole time I've had my channel, there hasn't been an Olympia where we were talking about the Olympia lead-up where Phil wasn't the returning champion. So this is something fresh and new for all of us, especially a lot of the younger bodybuilding fans. I consider myself pretty young. I'm 27, but I know a lot of the people that follow me are teenagers and younger guys as well. So a lot of those guys probably can't even remember the time when Phil wasn't champion. So this is certainly an interesting time. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Who do you guys have winning the 2020 Mr. Olympia? Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed yet already. And as always, Nick Strength and Power, signing out.